Rehearsal. Try to get back each week. By the time I'm done with my tenure, I'll get it right. All right, so I'd like to welcome everybody to the conservation meeting for December 11, 2025. And remind everybody this meeting is being recorded, and I'll wait until Susan sits.
Isabella, this motion sheet correct. It says motion sheet November 6th. But it's correct. What we should read that. No. Okay. Production.
So this meeting is being recorded. I'll ask that questions be addressed to the chair. If at that point I'll get the answers if they are available to be gotten. So at this point, I'd like to introduce the members of the board, starting from right to left. There's board. Rob Sweet, Chair.
Carl Hummel, Vice Chair.
Susan Palin. Leah Whiting.
My commander left.
Our agent.
Isabella Genova.
Okay. And item agenda number 3, good and welfare for the public. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring up to the Conservation Commission? Nobody online today? Okay. Nice. Public hearing, a notice of intent to Nipmuc Drive, DEP number 2180870.
Hey, good evening. For the record, once again, my name is Mike Dean with DNL Design Group, here with Benny Pinto, the owner applicant. Project, as you had just mentioned, is 2 Nipmuc. We were here a few weeks ago, and through that discussion, we also had Doug Dillon from Goddard Consultant here with us last time. Through that process, we arrived at taking care of the enforcement order and pulling that information together and move forward to address the enforcement. Doug could not make it tonight. He has a colleague here online, Tom from Goddard Consultant. Doug has submitted information to the commission and Isabella addressing that enforcement order and dealing with the wetlands and the 890 square feet of wetland disturbance. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Tom from Goddard Consultant, and he's going to present the new information that was submitted to the commission over the last several weeks.
Fantastic. Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting. It's been a while since I've been in front of you, so it's good to be back. Goddard did submit a invasive species management program and then also a BVW restoration planting plan, and I can share that on the big screen with everybody to walk through that. Okay, so here is our planting plan. There's several areas where there's some invasives that's noted in this tan color. So this is a 1,600 square foot invasive species management area 1. That includes some Japanese barberry, there's some bittersweet and autumn olive. Down here to the south of the graphic, we have a second invasive species management area. This is around 900 square feet. Similar plants found in this area which are invasive. These will be handled through cut stump treatment, manual removal if they're small enough, and then they'll be replaced with a variety of plantings which are going to include sweet pepper bush. There's going to be New Jersey tea, red maple, flowering dogwood, and then that's it for this. Going to the restoration of the BVW area, That's shown in this green color following my cursor here. That's approximately 890 square feet. There was no soil removed or no grading done in this area, so this will just be a planting in this case. That'll be with mostly wetland related plants, sweet pepper bush, 20 of those. We're also going to be doing some red maple, 8 in total around the whole invasive species management area and replication area. We're going to be doing black gum, which are shown here right on the bank of the pond itself to add some shading for fisheries and then other aquatic animals that might be closer to the bank, even some mammals such as otters and things like that. There's also going to be a bunch of high bush blueberry, which is sprinkled in closest to the pond, which is going to match the existing conditions that were out on site previous to the cutting. And all these plants are well adapted to life in a bordering vegetated wetland. So that's why they were chosen. I think that wraps up the graphic and our invasive species management plan and replication area. If you have any questions about this that you're seeing on the screen, I'd be happy to answer them. Other than that, the rest of the questions will be directed towards Mike. Thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm wondering what kind of herbicide is going to be using on the cut stump treatments.
Right now, go ahead.
That's what the question is. What kind of herbicides are you using on the cut stumps?
Yeah, we have it currently slated to be glyphosate. But we're open to additional. We're open to other applications if needed, but glyphosate is used all around in wetland areas. It's used because as soon as it touches water, it precipitates and isn't going to affect any of the aquatic areas or plants. It's just strictly for plants with leaves. So there shouldn't be any effect if any was to leach into the pond itself. It's one of the most studied herbicides on the planet. So I think it's oh, sorry, it'll be a dab.
Tom, can you hear okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair. And I just want to know if he was going to brush it on or if it's going to be sprayed.
Right, so did you get your answers?
And if
So could you repeat, Tom, please?
It'll be a dab. There won't be any spraying close to the pond itself. It'll be just with the wand, right in the stump of the plant itself. And we're hoping to just do mostly manual removal of the root systems for most of the plants. There's nothing too crazy out there, so I think that just pulling it out with a weed wrench or something like that should suffice for most of the invasive species that are out there. But anything larger might need a dab of glyphosate as well. So we included that in plan just in case.
one more follow-up question. If they have to change the chemical that they're using, can they let us know?
Absolutely.
And Tom, it's my understanding that there's going to be mechanized equipment. It's going to be all hand.
That is correct. Yep. Yeah, there shouldn't be any kind of machinery doing this work. This should all be manual labor removing it. It doesn't, again, there were some photos included with the restoration and invasive species management plan. The photos show very small plants. So I don't think that this is going to need any larger machinery. This can easily be done by hand.
Tom, I had one more question, maybe for you or maybe for Mike. But in your plan on page 5, in the procedures, you have the erosion control to the upland side of the work. Is that a typo, or why would the erosion control be upward of the work?
That is definitely a typo, which should be down gradient of the work just to capture any spray over, which we're not anticipating. But yes, we should have it down gradient of our work. We can also have 2 sets of erosion control, one that's demarcating the limit of work for the project, and then another that's demarcating the limit of work for the invasive species management, and then any of the restoration. That could also be a possibility.
Any other questions?
Yes, so under the invasive species management. I get it. So you're removing small invasive plants less than 2 by hand. Cutting and pulling is recommended as a method. Levers are recommended for removals, which I guess are these weed wrenches or levers. That's a new term for me. So that's all head work. Michael, I guess my question is how dense it becomes. You know, at some point, is it 50%? Some got to get the whole clump, so you're really disturbing the dirt if you're doing it right, right? Or no, it's just a little more pick and choosing here. I'm comfortable that you or someone like you are on site knows the difference between good and bad stuff. And then I guess my final request or 2 requests are timing is everything. And I think the
Absolutely.
pulling's got to be done early in the spring or wet anyways. And then how soon after pulling can you seed? It would be best, I think, if it can be done instantly, right? So, which also suggests maybe seeding 2 or 3 times in the spring and summer, but you let me know how you propose to do that.
Yeah, so the invasives on site to me don't seem like they're that much of a nuisance. They're certainly present, as you can see in these photos, but they're not like anything you would go out and be like, whoa, at. I mean, these are common in work environments. What seems most prevalent is the multiflora rose, which can see adjacent to the pond here. This can even be hand pulled. This isn't that large of a specimen. And nothing along the bank to me looks to be any larger than what this multiflora rose, the arrows pointing at, is showing. The bittersweet just needs to be snipped at the bottom and then pulled once it's loosened its grip on the trees. And then additionally, for these kind of plantings here, this again doesn't really seem like too much of an issue to be removing almost all of them on site. I think we'd be targeting almost close to 100% of the removal of the invasives if possible. That being said, it's impossible to get every single thing, and there might be some seed in the ground that might come up next spring. So there could even be a second round or some monitoring that takes place to make sure that there is no more invasives showing up after the pulling is done. As far as the seeding, we're not proposing any seeding in this case. We're just proposing the plantings, which is 96 in total between the invasive species management area and then also for the restoration. Those can certainly go in as soon as the invasive species management is done. I don't think there's really an issue with that unless there's any kind of discussion further. But I think that can be taken place either the day of or the week of the invasives after they're removed.
And one more question, Mr. So is there any erosion control proposed along the bank where you're pulling out these things which are right next to it? It sounds like it's hard to do that. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be tough to install erosion control on the edge of the bank here. It might even, if we're putting a silt fence, or not, sorry, it's not a silt fence, we're proposing a mulch sock, but if it's going to be tough to put that on the edge there. I don't think we're going to be creating too much disturbance in this case that we're going to be really concerned about any erosion or sedimentation into the pond. If we do have an issue like that, we'd be certainly reaching out to Isabella to discuss it further, but I don't foresee there being any additional erosion as a result of the pulling of any invasives. Again, it's not that dense of an area that the entire place is invasives. It's here and there. So it's not keeping the entire bank stable in this case.
I have a follow-up on that. In your
Yep.
procedures, step number 6 calls for seeding.
Okay. I would think that we would put in again. It does say it in here, the wildlife conservation seed mix, which is great. We could also do maybe like a wildflower seed mix because most of it is an upland area. It just wasn't in the planting spec. That's on me. I apologize for that. So we would be planting that as well, but that would go down at a similar time to when the plants would be installed.
Thank you. Carl?
Well, I guess just a sequence. I understand you're probably not going to want to seed it until after you've planted it. You probably got to grub it and get the stuff out first. And then, but it's very spotty. So I guess I just ask, is it possible to, put a Band-Aid on it when you pull out something? Or I don't know what you might spray. Hay or It's just a small area, right? And so as opposed to,
It's
I
just a small
understand,
area.
get it all done before we do the next, but everybody's eyes are
Yeah.
going to be on it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's close to the road, so you could be able to see it when it's done. But yeah, we would be able to put down some kind of erosion control just to prevent that to happen. That's certainly possible. Hay or some kind of something like that.
What's your proposed timeline for doing work?
I think we would be looking to do the work as soon as possible in the spring. I mean, we want to wait until the planting season, so we would kind of be in the middle to end of April. At that point, everything would be budded out, so it would be easy to identify any kind of vegetation that would need to be removed. We would have a wetland scientist on site to help with the identification and then the removal of the invasives, but we want to make sure that our plantings are good and set as well. So right in the beginning of the planting season is when we're kind of looking to take care of this. We want to nip this problem in the bud, and we want to get the replication area completed. So yeah, ASAP.
Because it is right on the road, I would recommend that you notify Isabella when you're starting to put in the uplands erosion control or limited work sock, so that when she gets phone calls, she'll know that she'll be able to tell people that the work has been permitted.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I guess just, if they're using an erosion sock, that it'd be something that's biodegradable, especially since it's not for everybody.
For their mats and stuff like that, for the seat mats, so. Tom, I have a question. The glyphosate, what's the half-life on that? What's the shelf life on it?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a licensed applicator, so I don't know the details on every chemical. I just know it just from hearing it through working with invasive species management folk, but I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately.
Now, isn't that going to dictate what your next step is once you start applying that to whether or not you can put your plantings in?
Yeah, we would. Yeah, that is correct. Yes.
Okay. So that might be something good to get an answer to.
Yeah, I mean, we can work with Isabella too on the timing of all of this, but we're trying to just state that we're going to try and get this done ASAP. We'll work on the timing, the exact timing when we can do the invasive species and then the planting, but we want to get this done. We want to get this in. So it's taken care of for the commission, and then it's also taken care of for the property owner.
3 days, 274 days. It does go into the water table at some point, so it's very used next to the lake.
So at that point, it may be buyer beware using it then, because if it kills your plants, because it's still there.
Well, if they're just.
You have a 2-year look back anyways on this. So.
We're just dabbing it. We won't be spraying it, so we're not really expecting any overspray or anything like that on any non-target species.
Stay within the plant that they've adapted on. You can
Okay.
work around.
No, that's, just trying to get answers to questions before they're asked. Please.
Yeah, I think I know the answer, but could you just touch on what the 2 gaps are between the plantings?
Yes, absolutely. Let me just pull up the planting plan again. So everybody can see my cursor, correct? Cursor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This gap here down to the south is the possibility for an area for a duck. That's why it's left open. We don't want to plant any plants there and then have to remove them. So there might be a dock there. There's a talks of it. Not 100% sure yet. This one up to the west is an area of bedrock that's directly kind of sticking out. So planting there is going to be tricky. And there's also no invasive species there because it's rock. So that's why it was left out of both of those areas.
Thank you, Tom. If there's no questions in the audience. Questions? Okay, thank you. Mike, do you want to take over?
No, that's what's been submitted to address the, enforcement order, so that's what we're here to deal with at this point.
Okay. Any more questions from the board?
Okay, so we're not, when do we expect to discuss the NOI application? We're not doing that tonight, right now.
That's what was discussed last time, was to take care of the enforcement order and not deal with the notice of
Right.
intent. So once we resolve the enforcement order, the plan is to move forward with the notice of intent.
Okay.
That's the way I understood it.
Okay. Are there, I wasn't here at the very beginning, but a few staff comments. I guess the only one I'm still is a permanent visual barrier of the 25% no disturb area with signage or boulders. I'm not a big fan of signs, but strategic place boulders, or how do you get that message across? Who should I address the question to?
I'll get you an answer. Lots of poster signs.
I didn't understand the question, I guess. Is that under the notice of intent?
25-foot no disturbs. I think
Right.
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Correct.
Oh, is that right? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the question
That's
is,
not the enforcement.
no,
that
the
could be-
enforcement order is about the replication of what was damaged.
Sorry.
So we have to figure that out first. Then he's probably gonna ask us to drop the enforcement order since he's come up with a plan and everything. I'm not sure I feel comfortable dropping the enforcement order until work is done, but I don't know how everyone else feels. So,
You don't need to drop the enforcement order, but you can accept the plan as that step in the EO, because it's set by the end of the year to
Okay.
submit a plan.
Yeah, for the record, I wasn't gonna ask to drop the enforcement order. We're trying to resolve the enforcement order. And then we're moving on to the notice of intent, and if we fail at that time, everyone's comfortable, we can blend the information together. If you're comfortable, then we can blend the information together, but we would talk to Isabella. I was not gonna ask to drop the enforcement order.
So at least, I guess I would move to accepting, is that the appropriate motion?
So that's
Management plan, the invasive species management plan is step one.
correct. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to entertain a motion to accept the plan as drawn by Goddard to move forward with the replication plan and move forward towards the NOI.
Okay. And I don't know if you want separate ones, but I'm not sure if we need to keep the hearing open, but I will at least move to accept the invasive species management plan for 2 Nipmuc Drive.
I think so. I mean, I just like.
Is there a second? Second. Motion's been moved and seconded.
Discussion.
Topic.
Yeah, does the invasive species management plan include the replication? Are they considered the same thing? Or this-
I'll get you an answer.
Invasive species management plan includes the plantings. Yes.
Okay, so that's the replication, okay.
Isabella, were all your comments addressed for this part?
I mean, accepting the basis plan, I think is, also, I don't have any more comments on the plan.
There were some requests of members of the commission that not included in the report or needed corrections. That's something we'd like to have conditionally approved, that they be adopted or corrected.
It seemed like pre-construction, needing notification, a notification if the website changes, and then to hay or mulch exposed soils.
Sure.
So at this point,
I guess, could I have a question or just as? We're asking, the plan calls for twice a year monitoring for 3 years. Seems to me it would make sense beginning and end of the season, but maybe late spring,
Well,
fall, when is the
No, I
appropriate
think-
time to do that?
we want to check late summer to make sure that any invasives that came back up to get pulls.
Okay, so if you're doing it twice a year, when would you do it? You say once in a high summer, when else would you do it? Doesn't matter.
I think you did it once things buttoned up. It'd be good because you could see what else was coming up.
Any suggestions, time of year appropriate or easiest, best?
Yeah, we normally do at the end of the spring growing season, and then at the end of the fall growing season.
For me.
Make sure we write that
In the order.
because they're saying they're gonna do that once a year for three years.
Terry, did you have an amendment that you wanted to, or did you get questions?
There was interchange between a number of members of the commission and the consultant as to whether something was actually stated correctly within the report, or whether certain other actions might be undertaken, which he said, no problem. And I'm just wondering if this motion includes adoption of those slight changes to the report, that's all.
Let me go Robert's rules here. I move to amend Peter's motion to say, I move to accept the basic species management plan for Tulip as amended, as updated by the conservation agent with the comments that were discussed at the meeting and approved and agreed to by the applicants.
Recorded by our staff.
Except Robert's rules isn't used here. It's the open meeting laws that we are.
In any event, I'll withdraw mine.
Oh, you like better?
All right, so now,
Leah's
all right, before we get out of here, because everybody wants to go home. So let's make it easy. Carl made a motion. Is it seconded?
Gonna act on Peter's motion.
Peter is withdrawing his motion. Is taking the honor of seconding Carl's motion.
So a motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. So do you have everything you need?
Yes, I'm just gonna continue on over the next several weeks and updating the plan for the notice of intent. We'll continue on with that.
Yeah, and thank you for clarifying, the cutouts and whatnot, because that was gonna be one of my questions is, there was speculation on the dock and whatnot, so.
Yeah.
This makes it easy.
Yeah, so as we've had dialogue going back and forth, we had talked about a dock, so that will be one of the changes that will be added to the plan coming forward.
Yep.
It seems like everybody was on board with that, and then we'll wrap up some other items on the plan where we submit that and then continue on.
Did I hear the EP number? Do we have comments as well?
Yeah, they're in the motion sheet.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Very well, you can.
All right, we'll see you back here,
Yeah, next meeting, when's the next meeting?
We have January 8th and like January 20th.
Are we doing to January?
Oh. Yeah. Mhm.
You can tell the February, that's what we'll do.
Okay. It's like, how much happens.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Have a nice holiday.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy. Thank you.
We got 23 Cape Road a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was wondering.
That was all.
Okay, so. Agenda number 5, 23K Road. Modification request. Request by Kevin Mayor, Pete, the engineering to modify the ES 71 outlet to increase flow to the western channel, preventing ponding at the outlet and prevent erosion. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much. Kevin Demers from Dupreet Engineering. Tonight to request a minor modification for the proposed outlet, well, the constructed outlet at 23 Cape Road. We had previously, to catch everyone up, Dan Wells from OEC Environmental, he's on the line as well. We had met with Deshang on site towards the end of October, just to observe some flows that were a little errant, just based on the topography, to the directly to the west of the outlet. And the water was shedding more towards the south to the southern wetlands, creating some erosion in that area. So Deshang and I discussed and kind of sketched out a proposed solution, which was a berm going around, creating more or less kind of a settling pool or basin at the riprap outlet area, with a curb weir set at slightly lower elevation due west of the flared end section outlet.
Is that what this sketch is? Excuse me.
There's a sketch submitted with the letter. I think there's a separate 11 by 17 sketch we had submitted.
A detailed engineering that fed off of this is field note.
Those were Deshang's field notes. Yes, from
He came up with the concept plan.
correct, and then we drew it on the plan as part of the package. Yes. So after it goes over the weir, it will go to a drop inlet, which was originally proposed as a 12-inch vertical drop pipe into the existing 24-inch outlet, which goes into a channel west of flared end section. However, based on comment from Jeff Walsh of Graves, just this past week, we adjusted that and we enlarged it to a 24-inch drop, just in order to ensure there's no flow restriction going into the existing outlet. So we had proposed that to enable more flow to go into the pipe and not stay on the surface and risk erosion. And once it does rise to level, which is approximately the 10-year storm, where it would go over the berm, that the berm will enable it to spread out to the west and southern areas, so there's not a concentrated flow which risks erosion in the future. So that was essentially what we drew up here. If there's any further questions, non-engineering wise, Dan is on the line, as well as Tom Simone, contractor from ARCO, and Sean Baggett's here from Blue Water Property Group to represent the applicant.
Questions?
I'm not on a first name basis with the parcel. Could you put up a parcel of the whole site and give me a locus for where this is actually taking place? I figure it's on the western edge, but is it the north part of the western edge or the south part?
It's due west of the center of the building is where it's located. There's a retaining wall where it drops down to grade. I don't know, Dan, if you have a PDF handy.
I can pull up.
Okay.
Yeah, there's all retaining wall there.
I looked through the documentation and it just dives in. It doesn't have the usual, you are here, locus, high level views.
Yes, the flared end is located approximately, I don't know if you recall, like this was from the site walk, several years back we had, but it was that existing cul-de-sac, that's since been removed on the lower area.
So this is obviously before construction, but it's on this end of the site. And I'll also show you some photos that should be helpful. So this is what it looks like. So you can see there's a big kind of sound barrier wall up on the top of the slope here. This is the flared end 71 right here. So this is, all the drainage goes into an underground infiltration system and it comes out here. And so this was our recent visit with Deshang. You can see the water is very clear. And so as I go to the next picture, you can see it kind of forms up into a little ponded area. And the next photo shows what's happening here on the left. This was not designed. So the water was supposed to go kind of straight up and join where a former intermittent stream exists up in this part of the site. So it kind of created its own pathway in towards another part of the wetland. And so the general concept is to make a berm to catch this and reroute it back into that inlet, and then it'll go through the pipe discharge into the existing kind of drainage or the wetland system that's been there for a long time. So that's this kind of there is wetland vegetation here, but the idea is to just kind of reroute it how closer to the original design.
After the berm is created and all the construction is done, is there an expectation that there would be standing water after a storm event that would cause mosquitoes to lay eggs and be a mosquito problem?
In the actual where those rocks were right immediately out of the outfall, or I mean, I don't know. Maybe Kevin or Desheng could answer that, but as we've seen it throughout the course of this year, it's always had standing water, and I don't know if it's designed to dry up completely.
So if I may, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Desheng.
Okay, good evening, Desheng Wang, Creative Land and Water Engineering. First to answer the question, so this area, actually I was there yesterday just to check out since the October visit, with all the rains and the saturation conditions, how that scoring hole is holding up. And second, this area always have water even in the summer. The reason is in the upper hill, there was groundwater interception channels connected to the drainage. So that water seeps out constantly all the time. I have never seen it dry up. So as far as it will breed mosquitoes, to a degree, I would say yes, but from my visit over there, it seems like very minimal for two reasons. One is the water, since it's coming from the groundwater for the base flow, the smaller flow, the water is pretty cool, but also that will discourage it's almost close to the biological zero, and mosquitoes doesn't like that cool temperature in general. So second, I observed a good amount of green frogs. I think Dan also saw that. So they probably, even as a minima, they will probably eat up the larvae of the mosquito. So from the time in the past year or so, I haven't really observed significant mosquito activity just in the discharging pool, and probably would be more in catch basins because there's a stagnant water there anyhow with this modern stormwater management requirements. So every catch basins require 4-foot sump, but most of them in Massachusetts is not too bad because on average we have like a storm every week. So it's probably will flush them out to some degree. So that's what I observed. So that's just in the field. Yes.
Is there a reason?
Yeah, go ahead.
If nothing and left it as it is, would it just make more wetlands? Or what is the reason to try and divert the water that's going into the wetlands as it is now?
That's a very good question. So this whole modification is from my inspection and observed the erosion around the path, because as Dan pointed out, the path right now, the water is flowing. It's not following a designer path. They are more concentrated. If you're looking on the overall drainage pattern of this site, before the water is probably scattered to the southern, I think probably western or southern of the site. But with all the drainage going installed, from the roof and from all the pavement is pretty much funneled to a single point. So therefore, the sustained flow and maybe the discharge is equal to the total flow coming to this side, but it's much more concentrated into the pool at FES 71. So due to the sustained or longer duration of flow, we already observed a scouring hole, which is about 2 feet deep, like the mini waterfall, maybe 2 or 3 feet wide. Right now, it's probably extended to 6 feet long. Scoured out. I sent it out a photo to Isabella yesterday, so I can show the photo. But in general, that's the reason. On the top of it, it's okay. Where you see it is pretty stable. It's the one to the left of this photo. They go in like curved into a little sloped area, and over there, that's caused the erosion. In order to prevent the erosion, we also realized that if we simply direct the water to the existing channel at the right up area, that may also cause future erosion, as I described, because all the water coming to this point is more concentrated, is coming from all, you are talking about 6 acres of like a paved area, maybe more, all coming to one single point. Even though the peak is reduced, but the time is longer, and during larger floods, this peak flow just going to the channel could be, it's a right into the calculation, but it's possible it can exceed before construction time, because at that time, the control point or the flow is a kind of dissipated through the whole southern property. So right now, it's more concentrated into the pool area, and that the mitigation plan or the amendment is trying to create a flow situation that under the smaller flow, they will overflow through a weir, almost like into the right straight, as Kevin illustrated, will go into this 24-inch drop inlet and then connect to that 24-inch pipe going to the old channel. But if there's a bigger, larger storm, that flow will spill out at almost like a level spreader around the outlet, and then they will go into the kind of a wetland looking like vegetated area. So, but that flow will be only once at a big storm, and the second they will be dissipated into like in Kevin, I didn't measure the length of it, but that will get this to be like a 30-40 feet, right? Long distance perimeter length, and that stone need to be constructed fairly with the crushed stone and the larger boulders mixed at a leveled condition, so the water will kind of dissipate it in a much less flow discharge, and it won't cause scouring as we observed right now, which was the note was made with the red. That's the area had constant erosion. So.
Thank you, Deshang. Dan, a follow-up question. Is it my understanding that that area that had the cat o' nine tails in it, that's on the left-hand side of the berm, is not going to be filled in? It's going to be left as a overflow area?
That's my understanding. Yeah, the work would just be, right as you see it here, this kind of brown line. And so that all that existing kind of wet meadow cattail area it's just going to be left undisturbed.
Okay.
Mr. Chair. I have a couple questions about the proposed berm, but before I get there, I don't want to lose your question, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank Deshang for educating us about the site, because we have been looking at this for how many years, Mike?
Oh, so many.
And the other issues about the abutting cutting in and the groundwater coming from the parking lot, and that it's a gravel pit much less now we're altering the entire site upstream of this. And as DeShang pointed out, directing it all one way or another eventually to one spot. And it's not surprising that the proposed way of handling it was overpowered because of all of these things, right? Not so severely, but needing to re-look at the plan. And nature is, as you suggested, nature is making its own wetland. And DeShang's principle, and we have the luxury of space. We have the luxury of downstream, a significant resource. We have a lot of water that has to be handled. So why can't we recreate or allow to create a larger wetland as opposed to try to restrict it because to avoid erosion within the buffer? Well, let's not make some erosion, but let's move some earth so that we stabilize the system for the long-term storm going forward. Get a big bang for your buck as opposed to trying to constrict it and fit into your one single outfall because we'll avoid erosion there. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but DeShang, is there any reason?
So yeah, so Peter, thank you for the comments. So actually, the overall restoration and the mitigation, including also a couple of other portions of it, which we probably didn't go through. On two sides of this outlet, we also mitigated, or the applicant mitigated the historic impact. There's lots of old sediment deposition was excavated out, and we created, well, together, the applicant created a good, so on the point two, I can, Isabella, do you have that one, like a site plan outlay that may be easier if we can put on the screen, or I can share my screen. I don't know if I can share my screen to show where this, the whole, yeah, okay, that's good. So if you're looking to the left, right, so the whole site, actually, there's a three issues, or three things was done. This one, because require the amendment to the plan, that's why they haven't finished it. So there was a two mitigation was done. One is to the top, we called point two, and so over there actually was created a good, like a micro pool, vernal pool type of habitat. I did go there. There was holding water, started holding water, and it's very stable, very natural looking. I don't remember. I know Isabella is very familiar in that area, and I just want to make sure this meeting I can surely confirm the mitigation even in the past months and a half worked very well. And so on the left, on the bottom and the left, so there was originally like a channel going down, but due to the sediment and it was losing the function and changed the course to even further down. I'm trying to remember south. So that the one we are looking at is west. So that area right now it's very like natural looking, and there's no more erosion. The channel get restored is in a very good condition. I submitted an email report, but if the commission feels easier, I can put it in more PDF format. So maybe for record, from yesterday's record, it seems like working very well. So with that said, that's carry exactly, Peter, as your idea is to say, okay, how can we dissipating and restore the old impacted wetlands in not just in a single point. So in the 3 points where the water all coming down. So right now, the middle point is the major one. That's why it's a hold up, and without the approval from planning board and the conservation. So even everybody kind of agreed with the approach. So we were holding up. So like in early October, during the first time of meeting, I kind of sketched out of the solution in my report dated October 24, where follow up with the meeting. Kevin gave us a very good insight how that construction was done. So the whole modification was significantly, in my view, improved due to the understanding of that 24-inch pipe was actually remained in place and get very actually still near the old floor area of the pool. So that's why this mitigation incorporated all that understanding. And we are pretty confident that if we can create this level pool, even under the current condition, without any level spreader at the outlet and diversion of water into the 24-inch pipe, the upper part where you see the cattails and the vegetation is actually, believe it or not, because the groundwater temperature is a little bit warmer. If you go look in there, it doesn't look like winter time. Those vegetation is still vibrant, it's still growing. So with that good growth, I think the upper part is very stable. The not stable part is this red dashed lines hatched area with the notes from my email. And I also sketched out restoration plan with the site contractor at that time is still documented in the report dated October 24th over there. So I think with all this proposed and plus the two mitigation already completed, looks like in a very good success. And in the springtime, if the commission member interest, I think all those areas is providing good micro pool habitat and providing mitigation and the reduction, slow down in all the water coming to the west edge before they get into the brook. So I think that's the whole understanding and thought process in the past couple of months with joint effort. Isabella, Kevin, Dan, and I worked in the field a couple of times, discussed through emails and the reports, and the applicant seems like in proactively trying to get this done, and I cannot wait to see this one completed, because otherwise this scoring hole it will keep on going. So that's my concern.
Mr. Chair, I still have some thoughts.
I do as well, but go ahead.
I appreciate that, Deshang, and I'm going to leave it in your good hands. I just didn't want you to limit the look trying to squeeze into making a fix on an existing thing. And why not take the opportunity? Why even put in a berm? Why not just make it bigger wetland? So then the specifics, I was wondering how that berm would get constructed. And of course, there's some good detail, but the detail concerns me a little bit in that it says non-woven geofabric must be included at entirety of berm between stone and compacted earth. So that implies, I can see if this is a standard detail, and if you're bringing in dirt, you compact it, then you put the textile down, then you put down the stone. Is that how you're going to build this riprap? Because then there's another note that says top 3-inch layer of 2 to 3-inch stone over compacted earth berm. What earth are you going to compact? That's my editorial. Berm to be created with excavated materials from riser pipe installation. It's not that big a riser pipe installation, is it? I get mine. And any excavation to achieve required grades. That scares me. What are you doing? You're just bringing in fill, or you're bringing, I know you want to use what's there and you want to minimize disturbance. I do too. But it seems to me that's a lot of disturbance to build a berm that if, I don't know.
And that was one of my questions right from the start of this is, are you bringing in more material or not? And the answer was no. The other question I have in addition to that is, if you're concerned about scouring because you're creating a berm, and then it therefore forces more water into its original channel, but it's going to cause scouring, isn't that compounding the problem?
That's a good question. That was actually in the process. I put a lot of thought into it while I was doing the inspection, bringing up to the attention of the commission through all my report. That's why I was not in a position to direct all the water to the old channel, as I explained in my report, as well as just a moment ago. So this berm is kind of like a level spreader with an opening raised. That water will based on that flow, what water will seeping out, but at the same time, the berm is on. I don't know if it need that the engineering knows it's probably a little bit maybe more sounds like it more severe than it would be happening in my view. So they don't. There's a couple of construction issues. I think I remember we kind of discussed. So because this place have the water constantly coming in, so we get to construct that riser and get it to function, and then direct the water coming out of the subsurface storage area to there in order to actually even construct this berm. When this berm is done, the upper part is a 3 inches kind of crushed stone. They will have some porous. When the water is seeping through that whole length at the same level height, the water will uniformly seeping out rather than go to the lowest spot as currently going, which is funneled to the scoring place. And as I explained, most of the time it's going to trickling water out because if the water we kept going to the riser area, and that one is kind of limited. So originally I was trying to use 12-inch, but I understand from Jeff, the planning board peer review's concern is to matching the old pipe. So we change it to 24-inch. I mean, to be preferably, I told Isabella, I actually prefer 12-inch, but I don't want to causing the tension one way or the other. So we could make sure the notch in the berm can be easily adjusted to control the water going toward the riser. So therefore, the riser with the bigger opening is less likely to be clogged. That part I'm in support of that. So this overall engineering system provided a good mechanism, be flexible. Say if after constructed, and I believe it will work. And but if I say, oh, I feel too much water going to that riser, you can put like a few, bucket of crushed stone on top because the water is kind of dissipated. So it will slow down a little bit, reduce a little bit, let the water go over the entire berm a little bit more because they dissipated through the berm over 30-something feet. And so when you right now, even so, the vegetation, as I said, is already stable. It's kind of like a man-made wetlands already. That will keep that condition keep on going. That will keep on, the vegetation will grow denser with the time going, so they will be more stable. And then the existing skull hole will, after patch it, you will not have any, you won't have the same strength of the flow coming down because as this implemented structure will handle and distribute the water coming out of the drain more evenly, won't come in just to that one spot. If they can dissipate it into 30 feet of kind of per meter direction rather than going to like a 3 feet, they won't cause that erosion. So that's I'm pretty confident that will happen. So, but of course, I mean, until it's implemented, I mean, that's what I can say at this point.
Shane, why is the riser on the opposite side of the concrete weir?
Yeah, that weir is kind of more accurately be able to control the flow, overflow to the riser. And so if you just put a riprap stone, that flow going toward the riser or the 24-inch pipe will not be that accurately be able to in a way to tune up or to get a quantitative volume of it.
But don't you think that should be on the inside of that weir so that that would take the water, and if that gets overwhelmed, then it would go through the weir, and then therefore it would discharge the water more efficiently?
No, it's the opposite, because you don't want all the water coming out of the drain going to the riser, right? You want the water be able to control the flow going down to the riser to the original 24-inch pipe, and to minimize that the new issues. If all the water go there, then that the risk is going to be higher to cause new erosion in that old channel. With the controlled flow, with first with the water contained inside between the crushed stone berm and the drain outlet, so which is kind of like a detention area, kind of minor or energy dissipation area. So whenever they settle there, then that water will come in out over the weir and over the crushed stone seeping out around the perimeter, so that you can see the flow will get distributed around the perimeter in all directions, rather than you put the riser inside of the stone berm. Then at most of the time, all the water will go in like in a quick drop in the drain, almost like you will see your sink filled it up, and suddenly all funnels into your drain, and that's the one we don't want to see that happening.
Isn't that the idea though? That's a settling pond, isn't it? So the water would, it's not a settling pond?
Not designed to be a settlement.
No, it's an energy dissipation. It's not. It's so usually at the old floor of any hydraulic structure, there's two parts of it. Either they call it a stilling pond, a stilling basin, or energy dissipation apron plus the pooling. Whenever you have water actually, like say with this stone berm raise up a little bit, we actually talked about that. So we were trying to get the berm top of that weir kind of level up with the old 4 invert coming out of the pipe. So then you don't really restrict the flow that much, but you have like a sustained, almost a still water. For the water energy dissipating, if you like shooting a water jet stream into an ocean or into a reservoir, that's called energy dissipation. The energy dissipation lost factor is 100%. So it means that the water padding or at the end of the pipe by forming this stone berm is going to increase significant efficiency for the water coming out of the pipe to lose the energy before they get over the stone berm it's going to be installed. So that itself is going to reduce the energy go downstream significantly, rather than just shoot it out.
All right, so one more question. Walk me through the process, because at this point right now, everything is growing, everything's settled. There's stone on the bottom of this thing. There's water being held there. Water's constantly coming in there because it's coming down through the hill. So the goal is to try and get the water out of that by adding stone and fabric and putting a weir in so that the stone then stops the high flow, turns it into a low flow, and therefore gently goes into the wetlands.
It
Correct.
directs flow into a channel that can handle it as opposed to going wild over the.
So at that point, don't we have to put in erosion control? You're gonna have more equipment in there, you're gonna have, it's basically starting a whole new process.
So,
Yes.
yeah, we kind of discussed that at the side meeting. So this stone berm, if you're looking, the erosion control line go around it. We try to limit it, that disturbance. So this berm is not a big berm. It's like if I remember right, at the site we estimated, Kevin, you can clarify because that's the part I may not get at the details out. But we estimate it's probably like 10 inches to a foot higher. So it's not really significant, dramatic berm. This berm, as we try to explain it, is trying to distribute the water more evenly. Because of to the southwest corner, you see that from the photo. It's like a natural low spot. That area will need to fill up a little bit more. So therefore, not all the water will funnel to there. And the grading core, I think it's a proper level spread berm. So the water will kind of, there's a several, after dissipate the energy, if you go look at there, the water was pretty, it's not like vibrant, like in turbulent, crazy water. It's like very quiet. And so with this berm in, if we're making that water pool more I don't know what to say. It's a low energy to before they get over to the down gradient side. That's the whole purpose or principle of physics, and hydraulics to do that.
That berm, that looks like it's 80 feet to 100 feet long.
I haven't measured that. So Kevin, do you have a number you can share with
It's
us?
approximately 100 feet. Just looking at the scale, it's approximately 100 feet. I think as far as getting the material in place, the intent is essentially to push earth out from the interior areas. So where the outlet comes out, you have the riprap. The intent is just to push some of the earth to form that berm on the outside. It's not to import material or go past the limit of disturbance to get the earth to bring in to form the berm. So I believe that was the intent as we discussed on site. It's essentially one shovel wide, I guess, as far as an excavator. So
So that being said, you're already ponding water there. Now you want to take the stone from where the ponding water is and make it deeper. From what it sounded, if you're taking the stone from the bottom of where it's already ponding to make a berm, isn't that making it deeper?
Slightly, not significantly, as we said, that right now that already have the water pooling there, but the water is not going out uniformly or in a slow and a more uniform pattern. And that berm is basically not a significant height. If you're looking on the pond weed, algae kind of cattail area, that's most area is going to be filled up a little bit. The one to the more south, upper right, it's almost at the right height. So it's not going to be significant more pounding. It's probably just more evenly.
In theory, the modification is to drain the pond by having the inlet. So even if it is slightly deeper, it should still be draining down gradient with the inlet pipe.
Correct. Yeah. It just if anything, I can say, yeah, it will probably be a few inches higher, but the few inches higher is not a downside. As I said, a little bit deeper water actually do provide a better energy dissipation to waste the energy for the water coming out of the pipe before they get over the new berm, which will be level around it. So therefore, the water will not just funnel to the left. They will distributed or go into the control the pipe in that riser area for very smaller storms. So
Mr. Chair, I just would draw attention. I mistrust the use of the word just. And I heard that as just moving earth. And I see rocks, and I see a little discrepancy from, you're right, it's not very big. It's the plan says it's only 6 inches from the top of the curb to the top of the stone on the berm, but you're supposed to be bringing in 2 to 3 inches of smaller stone. And your point of where you're getting that, you're bringing that on site and spreading it. And
How are you getting it down?
you're supposed to be putting down the fabric on compacted, so a machine is doing that. So, and the berm is pretty wide, right? It's 3 feet at the base, but it's got shallow slopes. So I don't know the detail versus actually what gets built. I like the big rocks that are there. Is that aesthetics versus engineering versus habitat? I don't know what it is, but I'd rather not disturb it as minimize it.
The question I have is, why wouldn't you just add more stone to the stone that's there? That would dissipate it. It would slow it down inside of that area and therefore solve the problem of the scouring and all of the other problems that are presented without having to do all this extra work.
Yeah, the question, I think, it's very good. So simple, I like simple way to deal with things. I think it's definitely, we were trying to coming up is one is engineering verifiable. If we just put some more stone there. So we after we discuss all that, you can think about it. If any contractor go there, they just dump in some stones, they maybe just move the water from one direction to another, so moving that skull out from one place to another. Because if you don't know how much water, where they can be controlled and dissipated, so this berm get to be constructed and verified in a good quality of construction. If you just say, hey, just put in some more stones in there, I cannot guarantee you that will not cause new erosion or scouring, because a pile of stone is not going to give you a uniform flow distribution. That's what I can explain to you. The berm itself, as far as the size of it, if we can just hovering around the end of the riprap apron of the existing, which is also can be probably used as a travel access pad to build it, because then the machine, if you park in the pool right now, you call it a pool, but we are, as I think we need to figure out a way to temporary, after the riser is installed, that there should be some kind of temporary pipe diverting the water there when the smaller excavator parked on this riprap apron, and to swing around it, we pretty much can construct this berm. I think it shouldn't be that much of disturbance. But again, so it probably would be a good idea. Kevin, you guys stake it out, the location the commission can see in the field to get a better sense of it. If it need to be a minor adjustment, I think that's probably easier to see to make in the final decision rather than look in the plan. The solution is not, I think it's not purely the overall principles I proposed, but I think the final product is a joint effort based on the field meeting and understanding of the situation. So I don't think I'm not. That's what the facts. I think, in my opinion, that's probably a controllable, verifiable mechanism to eliminate this problem for long term. So any other solution is all coming almost the same idea. So I would think, so Rob, if I'm understanding you, that's a very intuitive thinking. That's what actually I started with that, because when I see, I said, how can I stop the concentrated flow or change the concentrated flow pattern and eliminate the erosion? And at the same time, at that time, I don't even know the water as originally approved, supposed to go to the old channel. So the planning board was holding the applicant to get the water to back to the old channel. And after I analyzed it, I discussed with Isabella. I said, you can let it go through that way if that's what originally approved. But it is my professional judgment, it's not the best solution to go that way, because with all the reason I said. And I said it's probably better to direct or distribute the water partially, let it go to the original 24-inch pipe, but also let some water go south to where the existing path is. But it need to be done in a better engineered and controlled way. If not, then nobody knows what can happen. And after the project is all closed, who is coming back to fix it, you know?
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to get the opinion of,
Me too.
I'm just gonna make a motion.
Mike.
I don't think
Do
we
you have any comments on this?
No, I think, Shane did a great job. I think it'll work, in my opinion.
I like that he's being proactive to fix this before something goes wrong.
It's gonna diffuse it nicely.
Okay, so go ahead, Isabel.
Is the stone that's still in the riprap apron? I know at one point it was fabric and then topped with the construction stone. Has that been removed and now it's the final riprap apron, or is it still in the construction top layer?
I can speak. This is Tom with Arco, the contractor. We did remove the stone from construction during the time of constructing the building, and then replaced it with the final layer of riprap since the rest of the site upstream was stabilized, and since the water coming through that outflow has been coming through clear, as you see in that photo. So that's been removed and replaced since flows were consistently clear.
Right, but the water that's there is coming from the sub-1 pipe, right? So it has nothing to do with the settling or that riprap area. That's water that's coming from the hill down or from the site down and coming out.
It's coming from the pipe. Part of the pipe is always running.
Right. So
I mean, at one point it wasn't always clean before the site was finished.
because the deep manholes were leaking and letting dirt go into them and then flushing it down through that.
Correct, yeah. So we had the times when the site was not paved and stabilized. That's so in the last of December, that's what that washout and turbidity was kind of observed by the neighbor. And then even later on, we still had like in the unfinished catch basins, manholes had turbidity water was like leaked from like a weep hole, all that. That's all history now. But so we had a tremendous effort to control that. That's what I can say. It was not as clear as you would see right now. But yeah, I'm happy to see what it is now. Then so.
These guys are making sure this site is the problems are being fixed, and I'm not disputing that. The matter at hand right now is this outflow and what to do with it to stop discouraging and to make it so that it's effective without going backwards, without digging up everything that you have, without destroying vegetation that's growing, coming up with a plan that's going to be long lasting. That's where we're at right now. Am I not right?
My point was that still a step that needs to be taken, or has that already been done? Not
Right. And
riprap.
okay, so.
And then who went and performed with the camera in the stormwater system in October?
That was Don't have that
Did you say,
info on.
Isabella, did you ask about the camera inspection?
Yeah, it says you did that in October 29th,
Correct.
and that's coming from, are those the manholes up on the side that we had inspected with Josh?
Yes,
Those
it's those two pipe runs that run parallel to the basin and the manholes associated with that. It's the pipes that run parallel to that underground basin there.
And that's determined that that's running groundwater or some.
I think based on the observations, it's essentially capturing some of the infiltrated water from the bottom of the basin. It's a small amount of flow that just gets into one joint in particular that adds a small flow, but it's still coming out clear. So I don't believe there's any particular groundwater there. It's just based on some of the infiltration from the bottom of the system.
And is there concern that in high rain events that could be turbid, or is that always going to be clear water coming through?
That'll always be clear water, just based on the fact it's going through the bottom of the system after treatment. So based on what we've observed at the flared end section as well, it's always running out clear. So there's no indication that it's groundwater or will transport any dirt. It's simply coming through the bottom of the infiltration practice.
Actually, so excuse me, that's my question. I didn't see that report. This is through all my report. I did mention that an inspection to make sure that the infiltration trench bottom area is clean enough, not retarded or clogged by the turbidity water, because there's a fabric at the bottom. If I understand, I think in the early times was get some kind of cleaned it out, flushed it out, and vacuumed out. But the final finish, so I assume the October 29th is final finish. Do we have any photos taken from the inspection at the different sections of the subsurface area? So for record, Isabella.
I don't have any record. I'm reading it off the plan.
Okay. It may be a good idea to have that, because that's one of the things I had mentioned around the way. So, and I'm happy they did the inspection to confirm it, but it's probably, since they did it, I don't know if they have any video.
Dushang, the video in question, it was an inspection of the pipes when we did the washout, and then the follow-up photos that we had provided of the underground infiltration basin. That was just at the time in question. We did not do an additional inspection of the underground basin later on at completion. We did it following when we had cleaned it out during the time that this was a separate I'd say discussion, but.
I see. So what the October 29th inspection is not a video inspection, just regular. That's what I probably didn't get it.
Yeah, it was video inspection of a storm pipe, not of the underground infiltration basin bottom. That's what I was clarifying.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Did that answer your question?
We don't have,
Is your question more so you would like documentation of?
my question is confirming that there isn't gonna be turbid water coming out of these seepage areas.
Correct. That was based on the observation, what we saw with the camera. It's my estimation there won't be turbid water so long as the underground system is maintained as outlined in the O&M plan.
The fabric that's gonna be between the stone and the compact earth, is that biodegradable fabric, or is this plastic that we're kind of building into these systems? And is that the same fabric that's gonna be in the scouring hole? And is there any, concern for putting riprap in that area? Is jute netting not a viable option if the flow path is gonna stop? I think that bank is naturalized area, and we have a lot of riprap in the outflow and a lot of riprap in the southern flow path. So I mean, we can keep adding riprap, but
Yeah, and
it was undermined once too as well.
And we're open to the method of netting chosen. So if it's biodegradable, we're fine with providing that. It was intended, really the intent is just to stabilize, stabilize the earth, and provide an area for stone to top and not erode in the future. As far, just to answer the question about the, adding more stone, really this level area, the practice of getting the berm set up and having a level flow over the berm is really to spread out flow. And even if we were to add a lot of riprap to the end of the flared end towards the southern wetland, it's almost like, to what end? We could bring a lot of stone in. It will dissipate energy, but there'll still be a concentration of flow eventually, reaching that point where it's currently scouring near the wetland. I believe it's C23. So there could be scouring there. It could be scouring further in towards the wetland, but at one point the flow concentrates. So really, the goal here is just to get the flow into that 24-inch pipe for the first flush, and then if there's a large storm event, have it evenly flow over the berm. So in order not to continue the problem occurring in the south.
Do you know where the pipe is below, or is that gonna be something you have to look for when you start excavating?
There was a removal of the pipe up to the limit of disturbance, and it was abandoned in place at that point. So Tom can comment on this, but ARCO had abandoned the pipe. They can dig that up and
Yeah,
it's located.
we had record of where we abandoned the pipe. And Kevin is correct. It was right at that limited disturbance. We took and abandoned the existing out to that limited disturbance as it was called for. So we're very confident where the pipe location is there at the edge of that limited disturbance.
Yeah, to address Isabella, I think you had a really good suggestion here. So I originally with the stone is because we just cannot stabilize it in a very short term. So then there's two things I think it probably can be done to achieve that. I agree. I would like to see that area become like more naturally restored or stable rather than put just riprap in that hole. So it's a need to think about a little bit in the sense of the surface, using jute netting, maybe a little heavy double netting, biodegradable to do that. The only concern I have is if we do it now or when we are going to do it. Definitely there will be a few months we cannot get things vegetated. So probably we'll need to have some kind of erosion control wrapping around the netting area, at least for until the spring can be, the seed can take ground and that kind of thing. To have a successful procedure in place. For riprap, I was thinking is why I propose it, because you put there, you're going to be stable right away. So this have a trade-offs, and so I think preferably I would like your suggestion to make it more naturally restored or stable with the flow distribution. But that's, to me, I think that's a kind of open question for the commission to consider and to see how we can make sure have a roadmap to make that happen given the timing right now. So it's in the cold, almost winter time. Even you put things in, it's going to be 3 months is no growth, and you need to make sure the springtime it will take root and grow. So,
Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like to make a motion to build on that concept. Can we go out on the site soon? Can you stake where the proposed berm is likely to be? Because I'm supportive of the modification, but I would really like to see a more natural solution to the berm if possible. But I know time is of the essence. The developer doesn't want to spend a whole lot more money, but I think there is still some time to get it right. And I want to, if we're going to do this according to this plan, I have some concern with how the buffer is going to get constructed.
Well, at this point, then, I would entertain a motion to continue this until the January 6th meeting, and in between this time and then, get a site visit that we can all meet, come up with ideas on how to make this work best for everybody involved, and then execute a plan at the January 6th meeting.
It's 8.
January 8th. If anybody's amenable to that.
If schedules allow.
What is the construction sequence? Or, water needs to be
Regarding the
pumped out.
Isabella, regarding the constructability of this or the construction sequence and means and methods of this, I can go into that if you want me to walk through how we would intend to go about what's shown on the plan.
I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Tom, because if
Yeah.
I remember the site, that's a long sloping bank that's in the back of
Correct.
the property. That how you're gonna get material down there is gonna be a challenge by itself. Never
Correct.
mind,
So
it's gonna be along the wetland all the way.
yeah.
This isn't
So
possible.
I'll go and explain, especially with some experience with all the remediation work we did even further into the wetland there. We've had a great success going further in with little, I would say, with little disturbance or with adequate level of control. If the Shang or Isabella could speak to what the success when we went into the wetlands of bugging any materials we need. So the note on the drawings regarding the surrounding excavation materials being used, that's because that's where that's going to go from the riser pipe or from surrounding, grade creation. It will go to make that berm. Any materials we need to complete that berm would get buggied down the slope, and that comes from the far north side, comes down the slope, and it travels its way south from there. We buggy again, that would be any fill material if the spoils from putting that pipe in, like you said, not a ton of materials coming from that. But of course, we don't want to be taking it anywhere else. We want to keep ourselves isolated. So we're going to take the material from the spoils of that riser pipe installation. We'll use that as the start of this burn creation. We'll then buggy material down there to create the rest of the earthen portion of the berm. We will lay that fabric down, whether it is the Marafi as proposed or an alternate as Isabella was going into here a little bit. And then we will buggy the same larger riprap, and it's not a fun process, but it's one we've now successfully done, having to get down and get further into the wetlands. We've had to buggy materials around, and we've also had success bringing a small mini X down that same path. So that's our pathway we take, and we've done it now a few times. We've had to do it before we went out into the wetlands. We had to do it during construction, and we've done it again nearing the same conditions you saw in those photos that the site was in. So that's how we would go about getting to that point. So regarding the disturbance or any kind of disturbance outside of that 5 foot wide berm across 80 feet or so of length, it would be a matter of just the path we're taking, which we saw success going as far as into the wetlands with that same equipment. So we bring that same equipment in, and we would minimize our disturbance to the riser pipe installation and the actual berm construction itself. So once the earthen berm's compacted, the fabric's placed, that is now, I would say, almost stable at that point. And then we place the stone, and then it's truly, as the Shane said, to its stable point. If there's another alternative method at that point that you guys are looking at for more of a natural look, then that may change the means and methods or what we're looking at doing. But this is a very good solution for the time of year, especially because the ground is a lot harder. There's a lot less likelihood to disturb things as we get down there. It's stiff, it's frozen, and we would pack additional materials onto that to make that minimal berm. So that is how we go about that berm construction. And then following that, once the water's controlled to its intended purpose, we'd be able to then go further to that scouring hole, because that water you saw in that photo making its way to the left in that photo is now minimized, and we can make our way and travel our way to that scouring hole and then repair the scouring hole that needs to be repaired.
Now, another question, Tom, is that it's always wet there. Is there a dewatering plan in order to get something dry enough to work in?
So coming from the north side, it's not nearly as wet and staining water as it is on the south side. Again, that south side is where that water's inadvertently going right now. So coming in from the north, we would work our way from the north down and somewhat stay tight to that outflow and really that berm outline. But ultimately, there's not a great way to dewater the I'll say the lower lying area, but we would dewater that low lying the actual riprap apron area once we have the riser pipe and once we have that riser pipe installed, if need be. We could run a surface pump atop the stone where nothing's gonna get kicked up. We could pump it to the riser pipe to lower the level of water there for a consistent amount of time. You know, maybe a day's worth of leaving a pump running if necessary, if there's higher levels of water or recent rains, where we're lower, basically taking that flow from that outflow, going right into that riser pipe for just the time being, again, a day or so, to where we can then further traverse south around that berm. But that would be on an as needed basis if there is, consistently standing water close enough to that where we can't get to it. My anticipation is the cold weather is going to help a lot getting down there. I know we've basically hit that point where the ground's getting pretty frozen. Where the water is further south, and our path to get there is coming from the north. So we should be able to attack it and build it as we get into it. As we get into that concerned area of water, we should be able to be building it and slowly cutting off the problem that you're bringing up as we build it. So that's my anticipated path and route to get there. If we need a pump, we would certainly use one, and we get that riser pipe in and use that to help lower that level of water to where we can traverse the final stretch down along the southern side you see there.
Other questions? Carl?
Yeah, and I apologize for bringing up completely new matters after almost an hour of discussion. The planning board hearing, when you presented this, did they have any substantive comments or asks?
They did not. I presented it on Monday night, and they voted to approve based on with conditions satisfying Jeff Walsh and getting Conservation Commission approval.
And you incorporated Jeff Walsh's comments between Monday and tonight?
Correct, yes.
Okay. My second question, my understanding from reading the correspondence is that the original plan that was approved by Planning Board and Concom did not allow for standing water at this outflow. It looks like if we approve your current proposed amendment, we will be accepting that there is going to be standing water there and that you are going to be expecting that to stay clear. It's not going to be a mosquito hazard. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. Yes, there'll be the outlet is at 216.9. It drops slightly in the riprap, and then the weir elevation is 217 even. So there will be some number of inches of standing water, but it will be clear, clear and undisturbed.
And I'm not as concerned about that because, as you said, there were frogs in there, or someone else said there were frogs in there. When we went out last spring, we saw lots of tadpoles.
Isn't that a concern if there is a heavy storm event that they are breeding or spinning there, that they get washed away? I mean, it's not supposed to be.
217.
That's water.
And again, with that being said, your plan says that you're gonna take the riprap from that area to build that berm. So that's gonna make it even deeper.
I was mentioning the earth from inside. We wouldn't take any of the riprap. It would be basically the earth spoils that we can move over, but we won't dig. I think as Tom mentioned, we can also bring in material elsewhere and buggy it down. We don't need to only rely on the material interior to the to that quote unquote basin area.
I mean, me personally, I think it makes more sense. It's the least invasive way to go is to bring material in and then do the work.
Yep.
Because at that point, then everything that's there is left alone, and you're adding height to something that you want to add height to without disturbing the original. So yes, you'll get the material from the digging up of the old pipes, the outflow pipe, but that you're talking 100 feet. That's not going to be nearly enough.
My comments, please. Questions?
So the water, please.
Okay. So as part of agreeing that there's going to be standing water there, regardless of how tall things are, I'd like to see an update to the O&M plan that provides guidance for routine maintenance of that area. For example, if we're going to ask them to monitor that to make sure that the standing water is clear and not turbid, which would indicate a failure of some of the deep manholes or something. And also that they would look and see if there's a whole lot of mosquitoes, and if so, take appropriate action. So since the Concom didn't have our own, when we approved the Cape Road project, our order of conditions were just a standard boilerplate. We piggybacked on the planning board's O&M plan. So I'd have to ask you to sort of go back and update that particular plan. Is that something you're comfortable doing?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. And my final question, you're talking about plugging things in. According to the plan, the concrete weir, which looks to be 6 feet by 18 inches tall, must be monolithic. Is that going to be buggied in? Do you need something more substantial like a crane to get that heavy piece of concrete down?
We pour it in place.
Is it poured? Well, if you're pouring it in place, then you have to worry about how do you get the concrete slurry down.
That would be a buggy. You can buggy concrete as well. The same way you can buggy any other material. It's a 6 foot. So I can tell you how many buggies you may need, but it'd be somewhere in the ballpark of 2 of them to get that curb done.
Okay, I was just worried about that. And personally, I'd vote against an extension. I think that I rely on our peer reviewer and all of the other work that's gone into this the past couple of weeks. I think we should just approve it tonight.
Carl, thank you for the eagle eye. So the invert of the pipe is 216.9 and the top of the weir is 217. Doesn't that imply if there is no holes in the weir or it's not a notched weir, that there is going to be a permanent pool of 4 inches?
Yes, there will naturally be a pool there, and that's part of the requirement in order to ensure there's level flow. Much like, with a standard detention pond, any type of outflow, it's desirable to have some sort of level spreader, and as a standard detail, that's typically, a 6 inch drop before rising back up, and that just helps to spread the water. So in most applications, there will, if you want a level spread of flow, you're going to need some sort of dip.
I guess I'm just concerned. I'd always heard that standing water attracts mosquitoes, and this is a fairly large pond. No fish are going to grow there. So what would stop mosquitoes from laying their eggs in a 4-inch pond?
Well, things would eat them, dragonflies, frogs, green frogs, bullfrogs, tadpoles, that kind of stuff.
So it's not a detention pond, it's a permanent pond. So that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's not, this is.
And that's why I want it in the P&E.
So what would be the problem if you just had a 1-inch hole down at the bottom? You're still gonna have a permanent pool, right? You're concerned with the even flow, but at least you're gonna have a.
It'll clog
You know
up.
what the pre-
Yeah.
It's gonna clog up. Some small, I don't know.
You know what the pre-construction discharge was to that original pipe? Because that was where the catch basin is from, the old road discharged.
Correct. I believe I don't recall if we had that exact point we measured or we measured the flow to the wetland, but it was clear that, 24-inch pipe was not sized large enough to take that whole area of roadway. So that was, that was part of the rationale for not necessarily tying into it up front. However, in light of the erosion concerns, it is worthwhile to have that drop inlet to get, up to approximately the 10-year storm to get into that pipe, and then the rest overflow. So there's a benefit to it. It won't necessarily take on the entire 100-year storm. That's why we're creating this berm to even out any higher flows, to limit the risk of erosion.
What's to stop you from using a 3-inch notch? Small 3-inch notch. You still maintain a somewhat large pool, at times a high flow, right? That frame's not isn't gonna, it's a little harder to construct maybe.
I mean, we can do a small outlet if it's protected. It would probably need to be 2 inch minimum and have some sort of cap to it to.
Well, that's what I thought, right?
Some.
Just a detail.
It's just a piece of 2x4 stuck out of
You form, when you form it, yeah, just, I don't know. The Shanghai, leave it up to your hands. Yeah, I'm not an engineer, but I would like it naturalized as much as possible.
Yeah, the 6 inches, so curb is like more like a standard material. It's available, probably relatively easy. And as long, when the elevation set it right, so you go, if you want to go like a little notch lower, the pool is not, I don't think you can fully drain the whole pool. Actually, to some degree, the relatively larger pool has some advantages. You can provide habitat for many of those frogs, as we saw there. If you drain it, you don't have it. Even you have the rubber tire have a little bit of water. Actually, the mosquito love those habitat. So then you do have the temperature buffer to cool that down. As I said, even it's not a groundwater, but I know most of the low flow is groundwater. Through my observation, the water is pretty cool through the summer. That's why I didn't really observe significant mosquito in that pool for the past year, and I don't think, or I don't know it will change the basic looking over there. So the little bit larger pool have advantages. I said it will provide definitely a little bit better habitat for the frogs, and also have a better energy dissipation when the water shoot out. And so I can see your point, Peter, to drain the pool, not to have mosquito, but I think a relatively bigger, deeper pool here is different from like just a pure surface water running on the road, because it's a humongous subsurface, which is like 10 feet or more deeper. At that depth, the ground temperature is almost like at the 50 or 55. So the water go through that is like a big thermal mitigation. Lots of surface water discharging very discussed is a thermal pollution, because from the hot tops, without going through this system, the system advantage I see here compared with open pond does have this thermal retention, not just hydraulic retention. So the water coming out of there is definitely is much cooler than from the open pond. So that's that's my assessment based on what I see there for the past 10 months or so.
Well, I'm glad you're on it, Shane. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'd be happy to do a site visit here anytime you want to schedule it. It's just an observation that it's not been my experience to be in a room with more than 2 engineers that agree on everything. And I'm assuming that is the case here, but Dr. Wang, you're representing to us, I appreciate it in your professional opinion. This is the alternative that would have the least impact on the adjacent wetlands of those that have been looked at previously or proposed previously. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the best way I can assess of this situation, providing I'm not saying this is the 100% perfect, but I think it's to my thought process for the past 2 months, even a much better product than I thought at the very beginning, because I didn't realize this 24-inch pipe was there to be tapped in, and it provided us, Tom explained it, it provided a good, for a construction perspective, for dewatering and all that. He described the construction sequence. I was in the field with all that activities. I think I see that can be happening. So as what he described, as a site visit, it's very good, definitely for the members to see that. So that will be easier to understand. And secondly, I like to see that whole, maybe we can get that scoring hall a little bit better planned rather than just use the riprap. After Isabella raised that challenge, I think it's a good challenge. So it's a put on all of us to probably think about it. And I will try to think about it, and hopefully we can get a better, just like a riprap patching on that scoring hole, not on the level spreader construction. The level spreader, I still believe we still need some smaller stone topping with the fabric, so to prevent a failure of just the pure earth burn. So that's what my best engineering assessment.
I'm assuming the other gentlemen who have engineering background concur in that opinion? I see
Kevin-
Yes, yes.
Kevin Demers is in the room, sir.
All right,
Yes.
I think I can make a motion that will make people happy. So
Okay.
there are two things that we're looking for. One of them is we would want to have the O&M updated to reflect that it's now going to be a standing pool, and ask that appropriate action be taken to monitor the standing pool. And the second one, it sounds like people want a site visit, at which point you would explain the construction techniques and be very specific about where dirt's coming from. I think we can approve the motion tonight and then have the site visit be scheduled as a pre-construction site visit, where you would be able to describe what the construction practice is. Are people on the committee?
I'm uncomfortable with that because I want the shank to take a second shot to maybe green up something, or it might, I don't know, if on the site it says, no, you can do that here, you don't need as big. So yes, I have no problem with the plan being built, but I want to still leave room to come up with a minor adjustment in the field, if you would.
Is it
Clarify that the applicant should be designing things and then Deshaun can peer review it as our consultant.
There you go.
Is the 4-week or 3-week delay to a January meeting going to impact construction? Is that going to be a burden? Are you going to lose the?
Sean and Tom comment on that?
I would like to get started as soon as possible.
Okay, then I will make that motion, and then Peter can try and make a motion to amend and see if that passes. So the motion I will make is to approve the modification of the site plan that's dated December 8th, 2025, with the addition of that the site management team will update the O&M plan to reflect that it will now be a standing water pool, and that they will schedule a pre-construction meeting with the Conservation Commission and our peer reviewer to discuss the how you're going to be doing the construction work in the sensitive area. So is there, okay, how you ask?
I'll second that with the understanding that it's always subject to change in the field after mutual inspection. So yes, conceptually, the plan is good.
Back to you.
So a motion has been made to accept the plan with modifications to the O&M plan to make it a standing water pool. And then Peter added the ability to modify if necessary.
And I think if this is going to be a standing on whatever we want to call it, that there's going to have to be some kind of maintenance and oversight too. You can't just.
That's we're putting it in the O&M plan.
Yeah.
So a motion's been made to accept the plan with modifications to the O&M standards, and given the ability to adjust at a further meeting, at a later meeting.
After the site visit, you'll know at the site.
You can't make decisions at the site visit unless you make a posted meeting.
it's gonna be hard enough to coordinate people's schedule, but let's have it a formal. And then we
You
can
can
have.
do the site visit before the next meeting.
So what I'm hearing is either we need to approve this today, or they need to wait for 3 weeks. That's what's on the table.
So can we have my motion be not to wait 3 weeks and then Peter can make a motion and we'll see if Peter's amendment to my motion passes or fails.
So a motion's been made to accept the plan today with modifications to the O&M to address the standing water and maintenance of it. That motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
I oppose. So, motion passes.
Who voted? Was the tally?
It's 6-1.
Okay, I thought, Peter, did you vote?
I did, I said aye, but I was still hoping to have does that mean we're not having a field visit because it's a done deal?
That's why I'm saying no.
Well,
Because
I
this
guess
meeting's left open.
if that's the understanding that no, we're done, we're not gonna look at it, we're not gonna ask DeShang to review it. But it is what it is, I would vote no, I guess.
So we're not going to site
Could it-
visit
I'm
for
sorry, could
pre-construction.
it pass through you? I think that's the protocol.
Yeah, we're going to do a pre-construction meeting. So
I'm just wondering exactly what is going to be constructed between now and January 6th, with Christmas and New Year's and all the rest of that. What is being held up?
Tom, that'd be a question for you.
Ideally, if this meeting ends with approval to build this, we would be looking to do this as soon as next week, hopefully. It's
I'll be
again, as Sean
bugging
said,
Tom. I'll be bugging Tom as early as tomorrow morning to get started.
that's
And just from my perspective, and I definitely appreciate the conversations, and I'm very proud of the work we've done together over the past 12 months. I just wanted to point out our engineer Kevin Demers came up with this plan. Town's engineer that the project funds, DeShang, has agreed with the plan. Graves Engineering, who I believe my company will also need to pay for, has agreed with the plan. So we've had 3 engineers funded by my expense. I would love to approve the plan and get moving. And again, I'm really proud of what we did. It's just I'd love Mendon. Just would love to move on to the next project at some point. Leaving this in a much better place than we found it.
So the motion's been made, seconded, approved, and approved. So
Can we schedule a pre-construction meeting? Because I think it's a good idea to get things going. I think there's some logistics probably, so to go over just to make sure that, so we see it. I don't see much of a modification except that scoring hole patch, but some logistics, if we can determine a date, say we all go there, take a look, and then the applicant can proceed with their work. Otherwise, it's probably that's a safety. I believe it's a standard procedure, and I think it's helpful from my experience doing all the mitigation area. So it's very helpful in that meeting process. So that's if we all know what happened there, so we know it helped. So.
Well, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that a pre-construction meeting should be scheduled and work should not be conducted until that has happened. Is that not right?
but that doesn't fall in line with what we just did.
Yes, it did. You said there would be a pre-construction meeting.
It should be standard practice to have it.
Just approved it.
Yeah, we approved the plan subject to a pre-construction meeting.
I thought Carl dropped the pre-construction meeting.
No, he did. No, he dropped a site visit, but then the issue came up. I think
I mean, pre-construction,
Shang said,
pre-construction is typically to look at erosion controls, not to make changes.
a pre-construction is to agree on, people agree on the plan and it's understood how it, I don't know. There's
You do that in the field, though.
Peter, that's exactly what my understanding is by approving this right now, then we are giving up the right to change anything in the future.
As the Concom and enacted and could attend, and our engineer reviewer is attending a pre-construction, which I believe the purpose is, yes, it's to make sure erosion controls are in place, but more importantly, it's to understand who's doing what and how it's going to be done. And so I would like to think at that time, there is when Deshang could say, well, maybe you build big stones here or move the curve here because there's, I don't know.
I don't believe that's true. I think by approving this right now, we're accepting the conditions that they're offering. And only after it's done, if it's not done to their specifications that were allotted, then we have the reason to come back and say, we want more or less. So that's my understanding.
If I understand normally, so over here, there's a tool, given the sensitivity, so to make sure the erosion control there will do the job for this kind of water inundated area. So it means that the whole dewatering will be done. So we need to make sure that dewatering and it's more like a logistic, not to change the plan per se. So like you say, some material, how can we will probably should to do first, and then which area should do the second, and in the field, like that's the one I think with the whoever the contractor operator will be there doing. That's I think the whole team should be there discuss almost like go through the whole process with the construction team and the operator. So because sometimes some message can be lost in the process and then get 100% through. So I agree that we are not trying to change in the plan if we approved it, but we definitely can have some better understanding of the logistics at the specific time when we see the field conditions together. That's what I know from my experience, and that can make the project procedure better and more secured to complete.
So Isabella, will you review with us what the notes are, what the order of conditions for this to move forward is?
Including what did we do?
Did we approve just to have silt fence put in and then the project can continue as?
What we just did was approve the plan that was presented before us.
Right.
We just approved that.
Pretty sure.
Once it gets complete, we go out and inspect it. We can go as far and as thorough in inspecting, such as, again, we're saying in elevations 217. Well, show me where your benchmark is. Let me set up my site level. Let me take a shot. Let me verify that that's at 217, that the bottom is at 265, et cetera, et cetera. We have approved the plan presented to us. As everybody has agreed, we've got 3 engineers
that are on board.
agreed.
Get that.
So, you know what? I think the contractor is gonna do a hell of a job because he doesn't want to have egg on his face. So let's turn him loose and get it done. And then we'll go check it.
Tom, I have one last question.
Yes.
In order to avoid problems with the neighbors and turbid water, when you do watering, if you have to do water, just make sure there's no turbidity going downstream.
Yes, that is where the surface pump on the actual riprap would actually help us, where we don't have any disturbance and we don't have any real lower level, I'll say, materials that could get kicked up. It'll be a lowering only really of the surface level water. But understood. I know this painfully from the last 8 months of making sure we did not have that be the case.
You know, for 3 years.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have complete confidence that gentleman knows how to put us something and with stone so that he's pumping clean water out into, I would pump it into that
Thank you. No, like I
Not
said,
gonna be a team,
I'm trying to cover all the bases, so we don't have to have questions answered that don't need to be asked.
And we can check it out during the rainstorm, see if it meets performance standards, you know?
So at this point, I believe you're all set.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
To the commission, while we're all here, could I just, Desheng indicated that he's satisfied with all the remediation work of the sediment removal and area, what he refers to as points 1 and, 2 and 3. Would the commission consider making a vote that agreeing that that work is complete based on Desheng's email report and multiple written reports?
I think the commission should have an opportunity to have a site walk.
I was
I was gonna say, I have no idea what you're talking
It's not on the agenda for tonight.
So at this point, let's schedule a site walk and then we can have both those two areas plus the, this area, in question looked at. Everybody can be happy and go lucky.
Yeah,
So
I think
we-
that's a good, yeah, that's the right procedure. So I agree. So the commission it will be the final decision maker. So I made my recommendation based on my observation. Definitely, it's a check and balance too. The commission should verify and check in on with their own line. And so I'm not that's I think then that's probably the right procedure. Have the commission to take the final sidewalk on those areas, so to close that chapter. So.
That's fair. Isabella, if you could arrange that and let us know some possible dates.
Maybe together with the I still strongly recommend in a pre-construction meeting. I know Tom is good, so all the contract is there. It's good. I just feel I'm pretty confident I can help to making things smoother. That's what go through the process. I have that confidence, understand the site. To hopefully that's the best and least the thing I can offer to making these things go a little bit smoother. So.
And just for the sake of budget, could I please request that would it be possible that if we did the pre-construction meeting and the walkthrough, so that I would need to fund one more additional site visit only? It's been quite expensive.
Does everybody agree with that?
Sure.
Well, the commission will need to see the final product of this construction. I'm confused what you mean.
What he's trying to do is get the site walk and the approval for the remediation
To the south.
at the same time. So the site walk to, but this,
Then we wait
that's
until
good.
they finish construction and then we can schedule.
No, because the remediation is done today. Desheng has issued reports stating that his opinion is that the remediation has been completed satisfactorily. We're looking for the commission to agree with Desheng's opinion. And I believe there was just discussion that a site walk would be needed to confirm that independently. So my request is just to limit billable hours, meaning can Desheng come to site with you one more time rather than two more times?
I have a question for you then, Shane. There was 3 areas in question. 2 of them have been, in your opinion, done and completed. By approving this, aren't we approving all 3?
That's correct. And so there's a 2. I think I understand this. So what Sean's meant, I can try to manage to maybe say, well, if the commission decided, so we can combine the pre-construction meeting. If let me choose, if I only need to do 1 inspection, I will do the work with the mitigation and the plus together combined with the pre-construction meeting for this modification of OLED. And if that things is all understand right, the very last COC, I don't have to be there if constructed very well, and Isabella can just take a look of it, and the commission can take a look of it. So that's what I think Tom is trying to ask, and I'm fine with that. So as long as the commission feel comfortable at the very end of for the modification, see what is there, with together with the Kevin and maybe Jeff. So for the planning board.
So then Sean, you want the entire commission to come to the pre-construction meeting next week and also review the restoration area?
I believe that's my request, because I think Shane was saying the restoration areas are also done and ready to be reviewed at any point. So I was thinking if everyone was going to be on site anyway, it would save everybody a trip, and it would save all the consultants a billable trip as well.
But all of them aren't done, because this restoration, this modification is part of the third area. It's not.
The discharge, this isn't where the restoration is, but the commission will have to come out again to see this final completed area and the scouring hole. The scouring hole is part of the problem.
This area wasn't part of the enforcement order. I volunteered / was told to fund visits as part of the enforcement order. I think what we're saying is the items in the and Shank, obviously feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, please. But I think the items in the enforcement order have been, in Shang's opinion, resolved. Is that just the items in the enforcement order? Then this scouring hole and outfall is kind of a new issue that we're addressing separately.
No, I understand this. We agreed at the time when we find the scouring hole, as far as how to handle it, we kind of include it into the enforcement order process. Otherwise, you will have to file a separate NOI to do work within the buffer zone or near the wetlands. So I think that was we agreed. So it means it's part of that.
Okay, I'm just trying to make it easier, not harder.
Right. Yeah, I think this is try as easy as we can, but this I guess is this amendment which we have done earlier, but so we kind of dragged a little bit time into it. So it could be done at the same time. I was wishing that all things will be done by now, but we at the time the major cause the delay was thinking because the planning board review about the OLED is different from what we were trying to do. So that if we all understand that process, so we get pushing off until we get agreement with the planning board. So it's not, I definitely wish that at the very beginning is all three will be done at the same time, so.
Thanks for the consideration.
So at this point, we're scheduling a site visit
For next week.
and we are going to do a pre-construction meeting on the restoration or the modification area. And then look at the restorated areas for approval or a sign off. Is that my understanding?
And the scour. Yes. Yes.
And is everybody okay with it?
For me.
And then on the agenda for the next meeting, we have something about the closing out the EO part of the, that deals with the restoration.
Okay.
So then can we pick a time next week? Now?
When are you available, Deshang?
Let me
Well, wouldn't
see.
be enough time. The contractor has to get any erosion controls and staking in there.
Right,
want
well,
to show
probably
you.
mid of next week, so when they get all the things in place, so maybe we're looking into like a Wednesday sometime. Well, Wednesday I actually have another meeting.
Tom, I assume that you,
Maybe Thursday.
Sorry,
or
say again?
maybe
I'm assuming-
Thursday.
Wednesday, Shang is saying that he may have availability. You're gonna need time to put in whatever erosion control need be done. At this point, I'm thinking that if we said tomorrow morning, you would have it in.
It would be, I'd say by the end of the day, Monday, I could confidently say we'd be in a position to hopefully, have you guys all looking at it staked out with what's needed in place. And I assume that this is again where we're going with the pre-con site visit, which I guess whichever difference between the two words are being used, but everyone comes down, we'd have the area staked, and you guys could see where the work area was going to be. Then we can go over what we need to.
So we
as
can
soon
do
as Monday.
Tuesday then, maybe Tuesday just to be so it's checking the weather too. So let's see if we have any unexpected weather that we may not be able to do. So Sunday snow, Monday's in the teens. So Tuesday, yeah, Wednesday I cannot do it. I have another meeting in the morning. So if it will do is a Wednesday, probably mid-afternoon, I may be able to do it. But Tuesday I can do it.
All right, well, we need a date. Tuesday at 2:00, Tuesday at 1:00. What's good for you, Deshane?
So yeah, Tuesday 1 or 2 it's all good for me.
Tom,
That works.
Tuesday, 1:00? Does that work for everybody on the board or anybody on the board?
What time, Tuesday?
Tuesday at 1:00.
Tuesday, 1:00, Isabella?
Okay.
I get it done.
Can I ask it?
I have a
People have been talking about approval of certain things. What is the form that would take?
There's an enforcement order from last December that hasn't been lifted because the restoration work hasn't been complete. So you would be in January voting to lift.
In January, when you're doing it.
No, you can't make any decisions
I
at the site.
understand. Why I asked.
But one of the purposes
Trying to get out here.
of the site, the pre-conference, is to review the work that they've already done to restore it, so that we can vote at our next meeting to accept.
Right.
Yes.
And lift the enforcement order.
Right. And since we already approved the fact that they can do the modification, all we're doing is going there and saying, yeah, that looks pretty. So Tuesday at 1:00 it is.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So, updates, Chair? I got nothing. Conservation agent? Lake Nipmuc is closed for the winter, so that's all set. Land use?
We had a brief meeting last week. Going to be looking to approve the land use plan, so there'll be a public hearing in January, February, so if anybody has any concerns. And are we going to have the land use is looking for a presentation from you two?
The first Tuesday,
At our next meeting?
January.
There you go. And is that the same meeting I missed? Did you make a presentation to the
I
Concom?
think.
Okay.
And I don't know, you said something about the select board.
Also, first meeting in January. So
The select board is very concerned that what you're proposing doesn't interfere with the initiatives that the select board has given a high priority to make sure that there's not an overlap or splitting effort or stuff like that.
Which effort of theirs are you referring to?
A townwide site, something or other. I'm not on the select board, so I'm not quite sure what they were concerned about. But there was certain people on the select board who were very concerned about what we were thinking of doing. And I said, well, just wait till Isabella and Terry come and give the presentation. And then we can
the
ask.
select board is not the steward of our conservation land, separate.
Yes.
Yes, but our selectmen have control over what Kelly House, because the DPW has a.
Oh,
speaking. And the, I'm not sure it was the recreation at Lake Nipmuc there, that forest, who's in charge of our.
Yeah.
We can help.
Oh, I know. I basically, I couldn't skip any meeting for no reason. Wait until Terry's there. You can talk to him about it.
Yell at her.
He's had lots of expertise of the federal, state of New Jersey. Terry, what you learned there?
Okay.
Roller ice skates, next week, because it is that little pond.
All right, so
Okay, can I make a motion
for what?
for minutes?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, review improved minutes. I'm looking for a motion for,
Can you do all three at once in some way, shape or form?
Please do.
Okay. I move to make three motions. I move to accept the minutes for October 9th, 2025. I move to accept the minutes for October 23rd, 2025. And I move to accept the minutes for November 6th, 2025.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Right, let's see. All right, item number 8, good and welfare for the commission. Anybody have anything?
When's our next meeting? January 8th.
Any other questions, comments?
Make a motion to adjourn.
The motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those, any discussion?
No, but I left you.
All those in favor?
Yes. I brought Christmas cake. In case anyone wants some.
I think I'll get